Imagine you're standing in a crowded room, but somehow you feel invisible. People are talking, laughing, moving, yet none of them truly see you, and in that moment, a thought hits you harder than any heartbreak. I'm on my own. Maybe it happened slowly. Friends drifted, family disappointed you, people you trusted vanished, not with a big fight, not with some dramatic betrayal, just silence, just absence, and there you are staring at your life thinking, how am I supposed to do this? How do I become someone when it feels like no one is in my corner? Here's the twist most people never discover. That lonely, terrifying moment, the one that feels like a dead end, is actually the doorway to your rise. Because when you've had the luxury of support stripped away, what's left is the most powerful force you'll ever know. You, not the you people expect, not the version you pretend to be to fit in, but the raw, unfiltered, unprotected you. The one who feels every doubt and every fear, yet still wakes up the next day. You see, life tests the quiet ones, the ones the world underestimates, the ones who don't get handouts, shortcuts, or applause. But what if, stay with me here, what if being alone is the greatest advantage you've ever been given? Because no one is holding you back, no one is shaping your future for you, and no one is defining your worth. Now you get to do that. Tonight, we're not talking about how to survive loneliness. We're talking about how to rise because of it. How to take the emptiness and turn it into armor, ambition, fire, because sometimes the moment you realize you have no one is the moment you finally meet the person who's been waiting inside you all along. Radical self-ownership begins with a truth most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid. At the end of the day, your life is yours. Your decisions, your habits, your failures, your breakthroughs, every single one of them points back to you. It's tempting to blame circumstances, parents, partners, friends, or fate. It's easier to say, if only they supported me, or if only life gave me a better hand. But the moment you choose that path, you hand away your power. You're basically telling the world, I can't move unless someone pushes me. And that becomes a cage. Comfortable maybe, familiar definitely, but a cage all the same. Radical self-ownership is the exact opposite. It's standing in that cage, feeling the fear, feeling the disappointment, and deciding to break your way out, even if no one hands you the key. It is declaring that no matter what happened before, no matter who ignored you, abandoned you, or underestimated you, your next step belongs entirely to you. That's not easy. It's not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. But it's the turning point between living accidentally and living deliberately. You start by eliminating excuses, real ones, believable ones, the ones every normal person would accept. I didn't have support. I wasn't taught that. I didn't grow up with money. I have responsibilities. I'm tired. I'm scared. All of that may be true, but truth doesn't automatically exempt you from effort. The world does not pause to wait for your situation to improve. You have to begin from where you are, with what you have, however small it feels. Radical self-ownership also means you stop negotiating with your goals. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. Not when you feel like it, not when motivation shows up, not eventually, but now. If you are the only person holding yourself accountable, then your word must mean everything. If you tell yourself you're waking up early, then you wake up early. If you promise yourself you'll study, train, grind, build, then you honor that promise like you would honor a contract with someone powerful. Because here's a secret. The most dangerous promises to break are the ones you make to yourself. Every broken promise erodes your confidence. Every time you say tomorrow and don't follow through, you train your brain to stop believing you. And once you stop believing yourself, why would anyone else? So self-ownership is about rebuilding that trust. Doing small, unglamorous things consistently so your brain learns, when I say it, I mean it. That's how belief is formed, not from pep talks but from proof. Another piece of ownership is understanding the difference between fault and responsibility. Maybe someone hurt you. Maybe life blindsided you. Maybe you were dealt an unfair hand. None of that may be your fault, but what happens next is your responsibility. You can't control the past, but you absolutely control how much of it you allow to chain you. Ownership means saying it wasn't fair, but I'm moving forward anyway. It also requires dropping the fantasy that people will swoop in to rescue you. No one is coming. And the day you absorb that, not emotionally, not intellectually, but viscerally, something inside you shifts. You stop waiting. You stop hesitating. You stop hoping someone else will make the first move. You realize you are the cavalry, the backup, the support system. You start asking yourself better questions. What can I do with what I have? How do I build the skills I'm missing? How do I show up for myself today? And along with that comes the discipline of owning mistakes without collapsing under them. You will mess up. You will fall short. You will backslide, overthink, or freeze. Ownership does not require perfection, only honesty. When you slip, acknowledge it, analyze it, adjust, but do not drown in guilt or shame. Blame wastes energy you need for growth. Self-ownership also asks you to look at how you contribute to your own problems, not in a self-punishing way, but in a powerful way. If you are part of the problem, you can be part of the solution. If procrastination, distraction, fear, or pride are standing in your way, then those are the muscles you must train, not with complaining, but with practice. You don't need to fix your whole life at once. You need to make one empowered decision at a time. And here's the most beautiful part. Once you accept total ownership of your life, you also gain permission to dream without limits. If your life is truly yours, then your future becomes something you can shape, not something you merely tolerate. It stops belonging to your past, or to your environment, or to the voices that once told you what you could or couldn't be. It becomes a blank canvas, and you hold the brush. Self-ownership is not about going it alone forever. It's about proving to yourself that even if you were alone, you would still rise. It's about becoming someone you can count on, someone you respect, someone you take pride in, because when you become that person, the one who doesn't wait, the one who acts, the one who takes responsibility, your life changes trajectory. Opportunities find you. People trust you. Respect grows around you. But it starts internally, long before anyone else notices. When you own your choices, your discipline, your failures, your victories, when you accept full command of your direction, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop surrendering your power. And that is how you rise, not someday. Not when good things fall into place, but today, from exactly where you are, with exactly who you are. Mastering your inner dialogue starts with recognizing the truth that the most influential voice in your life is not the voice of a teacher, a parent, a critic, or a friend. It is your own. Long after conversations end, long after people leave the room, long after the world goes quiet, your inner voice is still talking. It narrates your life, shapes your beliefs, and influences every decision you make. And when you feel like you have no one else, that voice becomes even louder, sometimes inspiring you, sometimes sabotaging you. The question is not whether it speaks, but whether it is speaking for you or against you. Most people go through life without ever realizing they are being controlled by their own thoughts. They believe every idea that pops into their mind. I'm not good enough. Nothing ever works out for me. Who would want to help me? I should just give up. These sentences sound like observations, but they're not facts, they're stories. Stories that were shaped by pain, fear, and repetition, not truth. And if you don't challenge them, they slowly become a cage that you carry inside your own head. Mastering your inner dialogue starts with awareness. You have to notice the voice before you can change it. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself when you're tired, when you fail, when you're disappointed, when you're alone. Do you speak with patience and strength? Or do you tear yourself down faster than anyone outside could? The way you treat yourself internally creates the emotional environment you live in. If you bully yourself, life feels like punishment. If you encourage yourself, life feels like possibility. Once you become aware of the voice, the next step is realizing that you are not at its mercy. Your brain is programmable. It repeats what it has learned. If you grew up around negativity, fear, or criticism, your inner voice may simply be echoing those patterns. But patterns are not destiny. You can disrupt them, you can rewrite them, you can teach your inner voice to become a coach instead of a critic, but that doesn't happen passively. It requires confrontation. When a thought comes in like, you'll never make it, don't accept it as truth. Ask, says who? Ask, where's the evidence? Ask, is this the voice of my fear or the voice of my potential? Sometimes the thoughts that seem the most true are actually the ones you've heard the longest. They are familiar, not accurate. This is where inner dialogue becomes a skill, not a reaction. Instead of focusing on problems, train your mind to focus on solutions. Replace I don't know how with I will figure it out. Replace no one supports me with I will become someone who supports myself. Replace this is too hard with hard, is where I grow. It may feel unnatural at first. It may feel like you're lying to yourself, but remember, you've been rehearsing negative thoughts for years. Of course, positivity feels foreign. It's a language you haven't practiced. Mastering your inner dialogue also means refusing to let temporary emotions dictate permanent beliefs. Fear, sadness, loneliness, these emotions are real, but they are not final. When you're stuck in them, your brain will try to make sweeping statements. I'll always feel this way. Nothing ever changes. I'm alone forever. But emotions are weather. They pass. They shift. They lighten. The thoughts you attach to them, however, can stick around and quietly build your identity. So when emotions rise, allow them, but don't let them write the script of your life. Another powerful element is learning the difference between truth and interpretation. If you fail at something, the truth is you failed once. The interpretation is, I'm a failure. If someone leaves your life, the truth is they left. The interpretation is, I'm not lovable. Mastering inner dialogue means sticking to facts and refusing to let interpretations define your worth. Life will give you setbacks, that's unavoidable. But your inner voice determines whether those setbacks become lessons or lifelong limitations. And here's something most people don't realize. The inner voice gets louder in silence. When you're alone, when no one is checking on you, when nothing external is validating your existence, your mind fills the space. This is why loneliness can feel so painful. Not because you have no people, but because you have no extern. I'll shield against your own thoughts. If your inner voice is harsh, silence feels like suffering. If your inner voice is empowering, silence becomes strength. This is why mastering inner dialogue is one of the most valuable skills you will ever develop. It is protection. It is guidance. It is stability in chaos. When you can encourage yourself, you are no longer dependent on someone else cheering you on. When you can calm your own fears, you stop needing constant reassurance. When you can motivate yourself, you become unstoppable because your energy source is internal, not borrowed. The goal is not to silence doubt completely. That's impossible. Doubt will always whisper. But the goal is to make your inner champion louder than your inner critic. You want the voice that says, try again, to drown out the one that says, give up. You want to build a mental environment where you are not the enemy, but the ally. And the beautiful part? The more you practice, the easier it becomes. Just like your muscles grow through resistance, your mind grows through repetition. Every time you choose a productive thought over a destructive one, you are rewiring your brain. You're creating new pathways. You're building resilience from the inside out. Mastering your inner dialogue is about becoming fluent in the language of possibility. It is about looking in the mirror and treating yourself like someone worth investing in. It is about crafting a mental space where you are safe, driven, and aged. Because if you can win the battle in your mind, every challenge outside becomes smaller. If you can learn to speak to yourself with respect, courage, and clarity, you will rise, not just when people are watching, but especially when you walk alone. When your inner voice becomes your best ally, loneliness turns into focus, struggle turns into training, and life becomes something you shape, not something that happens to you. Building skill, strength, and structure is how you transform from someone waiting for life to change into someone capable of changing their own life. When you have no support system, no cheering squad, no one pushing you forward, the only thing left to lean on is competence, your ability to do, to execute, to perform. Skill is the currency of self-made people. It's the difference between hoping and achieving. And it is built one deliberate action at a time. Let's start with skill. Skill is what makes you valuable to yourself and to the world. It is a tool set that cannot be taken from you no matter what happens. You lose money, skills stay. You lose friends, skills stay. You lose confidence, skills. Rebuild it. The first step is accepting that you don't rise in life by dreaming alone. You rise by becoming good at something, sometimes exceptionally good. That means choosing a craft, a passion, a profession, or even a simple habit, then committing to improving in it day after day. Most people want results without mastery. They want rewards without repetiti. But mastery is a long game. It requires showing up when it's boring, when progress is invisible, when the only applause you hear is the quiet click of you taking another step forward. The key is understanding that skill isn't about talent, it's about time. Every expert you admire was once a beginner fumbling through failures. They made more mistakes than most people even attempt. Skill grows through doing, failing, adjusting, and repeating. So ask yourself, what do you want to be good at? What would change your life if you mastered it? And then begin intentionally practicing it, not occasionally, but consistently. 1 book becomes knowledge. 10 books become wisdom. One project teaches a lesson. 20 projects build expertise. Skill is earned through exposure to discomfort and consistent repetition. Every hour you invest compounds like interest. But skill alone isn't enough if your body and mind can't sustain the effort. That's where strength comes in. Not just physical strength, but emotional and mental strength. When you have no one encouraging you, no one checking if you stick to your goals, strength is what keeps you standing. Mental strength is built the same way muscle is built, through resistance. Failure, rejection, loneliness, frustration. These are not signs that you're weak, they are opportunities to grow stronger. If life is easy, you don't grow. If everything is handed to you, you never learn to fight. Strength emerges when you face difficulty and push through. Strength means developing grit. The ability to stay committed long after the excitement wears off. It means getting up 100 times even if you only got knocked down 99. It means not folding when life gets heavy. But strength is not purely toughness. It includes flexibility and self-awareness. Sometimes strength means resting so you can continue. Sometimes it means asking yourself hard questions instead of blaming the world. Sometimes it means swallowing your pride, starting over, or admitting you don't know enough yet. Real strength is adaptable, resilient, and honest. Now structure, the silent force that separates potential from progress. You can be talented, you can be smart, you can be motivated, but without structure, you will scatter your energy and sabotage your own growth. Structure gives shape to your goals. It turns desire into movement. Think of structure as the frame that holds your life steady. Routines, schedules, habits, priorities, boundaries. When you feel alone, structure becomes your accountability partner. It replaces the coach you don't have, the mentor you haven't met yet, the friend who might have dragged you forward. Structure begins with designing your day instead of drifting through it. You wake up with intention. You create non-negotiables, things you must do regardless of mood or circumstance. These might be reading, training, practicing a skill, building a side project, or simply holding promises you've made to yourself. Structure removes the daily decision fatigue. You don't ask yourself, do I feel like working today? You follow the system you've put in place. Because motivation is unreliable. Discipline is steady. Every routine you establish becomes a track your life can run on, and the more structure you build, the more momentum you create. Small habits compound into massive change. A 30-minute practice done daily is more powerful than a 5-hour burst done once a month. Consistency beats intensity. This is why structure matters. It keeps you moving forward, even when life feels chaotic or empty. Instead of reacting to your emotions or waiting for inspiration, you create a rhythm that carries you. Building skill, strength, and structure is also how you earn self-respect. One day you look back and realize that your competence has replaced your insecurity. You recognize the work you've put in. You feel proud, not because someone validated you, but because you built evidence that you are capable. That kind of confidence cannot be faked or gifted. It has to be earned. And once you earn it, it becomes a fortress against self-doubt. When you grow your skills, you make the world pay attention. When you grow your strength, you become someone who cannot be broken easily. When you build structure, you become someone who doesn't quit when life gets lonely. You stop drifting and start directing. And slowly, as competence compounds, opportunities appear. People who once overlooked you begin to notice. Doors that were once closed begin to open. You become someone others rely on. Not because you begged for validation, but because you proved your value. Ultimately, building skill, strength, and structure is how you create momentum when you have no external support. These 3 pillars turn isolation into transformation. They give you something solid to stand on when the world feels fragile. When you invest in them, you stop being at the mercy of circumstance. You shift from powerless to powerful, from hoping for change to becoming the force that creates it. Because the truth is simple, if you can build yourself, the world eventually follows. If you can become excellent, resilient, and disciplined, life begins to bend in your favor. Skill makes you capable, strength makes you durable, structure makes you unstoppable, and together they carry you forward, even when you are walking alone. Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in life. Most people do everything they can to avoid it, numb it, run from it, or silence it. They treat pain like a punishment, as if suffering means they did something wrong or life has singled them out to be broken. But if you look closely, the people you admire most, the strong ones, the resilient ones, the ones with stories worth listening to, all have one thing in common. They went through something hard. and instead of letting it destroy them, they used it to build themselves. Pain is not the end. Pain is the raw material from which power is made. When you feel like you have no one, pain becomes louder. Loneliness hurts, betrayal stings, rejection burns. The silence after someone leaves your life can be deafening. The ache of not being understood can make it feel like you're not meant to be here. Pain convinces you that you're the only one going through this, that there's something wrong with you. But the truth is that pain is universal. Everyone bleeds, everyone breaks. The difference between the weak and the strong is not who experiences pain, it's what they decide to do with it. Turning pain into power begins with allowing yourself to feel it, not burying it, not pretending you're fine when you're crumbling inside. Pain ignored becomes poison. Pain acknowledged becomes potential. Sit with it long enough to understand it, but not so long that it becomes your identity. Ask yourself, what is this pain trying to teach me? Sometimes the lesson is forgiveness. Sometimes it's learning to walk away. Sometimes it's letting go of the people you outgrew. And sometimes it's realizing your worth was never tied to others in the first place. Once you accept that pain is a teacher, not a life sentence, you begin to shift. You start to see that every bruise has a message, every scar has wisdom, and every heartbreak contains the blueprint for rebuilding yourself stronger. When life disappoints you, it is not a signal to stop. It is a signal to grow. Pain reveals areas where you need to toughen, strengthen, or transform. It shows you what matters and what doesn't. It strips away illusions and leaves only what is real. Pain also yields resilience. Think of a muscle. It only grows through resistance. You do not become stronger when life is easy. You become stronger when life challenges you. The day you realize that struggle is training, not torture, your mindset changes forever. Pain forces you to adapt, to learn resourcefulness, to build grit. Every time you get knocked down and stand back up, you become a version of yourself that can never go back to who you were before. Pain is the cost of evolution. And pain has fuel in it, raw energy that, if channeled correctly, can propel you farther than comfort ever could. When someone doubts you, the sting of that disbelief can become motivation. When someone walks away, the ache of that abandonment can push you to create a life where you never need them again. When you hit rock bottom, the desperation to climb out becomes the fire that burns away excuses. Pain gives you a reason when motivation fails. It gives you hunger when the world is indifferent. It reminds you that you want something more than what you have now. But turning pain into power also means refusing to let pain make you bitter. Pain always gives you two options: harden your heart or expand it. You can let your wounds convince you that everyone is unsafe, that vulnerability is weakness, that caring is pointless. Or you can let pain deepen your empathy, increase your wisdom, and sharpen your intuition. When you've been hurt, you see more clearly. You notice red flags faster. You spot authentic quicker. Pain can either close you or wake you up. Power lies in choosing awakening. There will be moments when pain feels too heavy to carry. That's when people quit. Not because they lack potential, but because they never learned to use their suffering as fuel. When you feel like you're breaking, remind yourself, the breaking happens before the breakthrough. Diamonds are made under pressure. Muscles are torn before they grow. Steel is forged in fire. You are being shaped, not destroyed. Turning pain into power also means reclaiming your story. Many people let the worst things that happen to them define them permanently. They repeat the same memory until it becomes their identity. But your pain does not get to write your ending unless you hand it the pen. You decide what the struggle becomes: a scar that holds you back, or a badge that proves you survived. One version keeps you small, the other prepares you to rise. And here's the beautiful twist. Most of the time, the pain that feels unbearable now becomes the exact reason you succeed later. The heartbreak that crushed you becomes the clarity you needed. The loneliness becomes the independence that builds your strength. The disappointment becomes the fuel for your discipline. The failure becomes the blueprint for your comeback. Pain plants seeds that only bloom if you keep moving. So instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What now?" Instead of wishing the pain away, ask how you can use it. Let it push you toward your goals. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it burn away excuses, laziness, and old beliefs that kept you small. Pain is energy. Transform it instead of letting it rot inside you. When you start seeing pain as power, You stop fearing life's challenges. You become dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in a way that means nothing can break you the same way twice. You become self-made emotionally. You stop needing external validation to rise, and that is how you move forward when the world goes silent. Pain becomes your compass, your teacher, your fuel, and ultimately, the very reason you discover your strength. Creating your own brotherhood or tribe is one of the most powerful things you will ever do in life, especially when you've walked through seasons where you feel like you have nobody. When you've had to stand alone, solve your own problems, and hold yourself up when everything in you wanted to fall apart. You develop something rare, the ability to stand on your own. But once you've learned to rely on yourself, something incredible happens. You become capable of building meaningful connections instead of clinging to them out of fear or need. The mistake many people make is believing that relationships appear magically, or that the right people suddenly fall into their lives. In truth, most people wait instead of build. They hope instead of create. They complain about not having good friends while investing nothing into finding, cultivating, or becoming one. A tribe isn't found, tease made. And it starts with you becoming someone worthy of belonging to. You cannot attract strong people if you are clinging to weakness. You cannot form deep friendships if you operate from insecurity. And you cannot create a community if you are carrying the expectation that others are responsible for fulfilling you. Brotherhood begins with self-respect. When you become someone who stands tall, holds boundaries, lives with discipline, and knows their value, you stop begging people to stay. You stop chasing attention, validation, or approval. You naturally draw to you those who recognize your strength and resonate with your values. But let's be clear, building your tribe doesn't happen overnight. It requires intention. You must decide what kind of people you want in your life long before you meet them. Do you want people who push you to grow? Then you must grow. Do you want people who are honest and reliable? Then you must be honest and reliable. Do you want people with ambition? Then start moving toward your own goals. Brotherhood is built through alignment, not convenience. Another truth many overlook is that your past doesn't determine your future circle. Just because you lost people doesn't mean you're meant to be alone forever. Some connections expire because you outgrow them. Some relationships fade because you start walking a path others refuse to walk. Growth is lonely at first. When you start rising, you may find yourself walking alone, not because you're unwanted, but because the road you chose has fewer travelers. The solitude is temporary. The people who will meet you further up the mountain are climbing just like you. But you must keep moving if you want to meet them. Creating your own tribe also requires vulnerability, not the kind where you spill your wounds everywhere, but the kind where you show up as your authentic self. You cannot build meaningful connections wearing a mask. If you pretend to be someone else, you will attract people who match the disguise, not your true identity. Brotherhood forms when people see who you really are and choose to stand with you anyway. That level of connection demands honesty and courage. It also demands effort. You must show up, not just for yourself, but for others. You cannot build a tribe if you are always in take mode. You must contribute your time, your energy, your support, your wisdom, your loyalty. Brotherhood is an exchange, not a transaction. You don't keep score. You invest. You give without demanding something in return. And you choose people who do the same. One of the most overlooked aspects of building a tribe is learning to let go of people who don't belong there. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. Some people drain you, distract you, or derail your growth. Some relationships are built on comfort instead of progress. Holding on to the wrong people keeps you from finding the right ones. You must develop the strength to release those who cannot grow with you, not out of anger or judgment, but out of clarity. Brotherhood requires quality, not quantity. As you rise, you'll begin to recognize who your tribe is. Often in small moments, it's the person who challenges you instead of coddling you. The one who applauds your success, not secretly resents it. The one who calls you out when you're slacking. The one who walks into your life without taking advantage of you. These people become anchors. They bring stability instead of chaos. And when you combine your strengths with theirs, you elevate each other. But you must also understand that building a tribe doesn't mean creating dependency. Brotherhood is not a crutch. It is a multiplier. You don't build it so you never feel alone again. You build it so that together you can reach heights none of you could reach alone. Strong people standing together become unstoppable. They share ideas, networks, perspectives, and support systems. They become each other's mirrors when doubt creeps in and each other's engines when motivation runs low. And yet the most surprising part is this. You may discover that your tribe doesn't always come from expected places. Sometimes strangers become family. Sometimes a mentor appears when you least expect it. Sometimes your tribe grows through shared goals, shared pain, shared discipline, or shared dreams. Brotherhood isn't limited by age, background, or history. It is bound by alignment of purpose and character. Finally, remember this. Your tribe is not something you finish. It is something you continually shape. It evolves as you evolve. The people you need at the beginning of your journey may not be the same ones who stand beside you years later, and that's okay. Growth brings different seasons and different alliances. The key is to stay open, stay intentional, and stay rooted in your values. When you create your own brotherhood, you no longer fear being alone because you know you earned your community, not inherited it. You know you can survive without it, but thrive with it. You become strong enough to stand alone and wise enough to stand with others. And when you finally look around and realize you have a circle, not because you needed one to feel whole, but because you became someone who naturally builds one, that is when you truly rise. In the end, life is going to test you in the quiet, not when everyone is cheering, not when the path is clear, not when you feel supported. But when the lights go out and you are left with nothing but your own heartbeat echoing in your chest, those are the moments that define you. Because when you rise in the dark, you become someone who can walk in any light. You rise when you choose responsibility over excuses. You rise when you train your mind to fight beside you instead of against you. You rise when you build skill, strength, and structure as if your future depends on it. Because it does. You rise when you take every wound, every disappointment, every lonely night, and turn it into fuel no one can extinguish. And you rise when you stop waiting for someone to find you, and instead build the tribe that finds strength in your strength. Being alone is not a life sentence. It is a training ground. It forges character. It reveals truth. It shapes warriors. So if you feel like you have no one, remember this. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the beginning of your rise. Stand up. Start where you are. Use what you have. Build who you must become, because the day you learn to walk with no hand to hold is the day you become the person others look to for strength. And when they ask how you made it, you'll smile because you'll know the secret they never taught you. You rose not because someone saved you, but because you decided you were worth saving,